one of the problems with being even just a little bit conscious, as in consciously aware, is the ability to sort of reason things and extrapolate a reason or try to find a meaning for something. And it's very difficult when you've got nowhere to go with that reasoning ability, and it kind of creates a freeze. You can even have a hypercycling freeze. So although a freeze is usually a hypo freeze where we just shut down and slow down, in an anxiety freeze is really the hypercycling, the fight-flight. But when there's nowhere to go in fight-flight, but you're in fight-flight, you get another kind of freeze. So the current situation is very interesting because there's nowhere to go with the thoughts and ideas or the reasoning that a reasonable person has. So you're left sort of submitting, either falling back on an old ingrained and deep belief that perhaps I'm not clever enough, perhaps I'm missing something, perhaps it's not my place to ask, or just I must be missing something. There's no way on earth that a government that we elected could be actively trying to lie and frighten people into a certain type of behaviour, so that they're on the kind of defensive and on the back foot and so afraid that they would accept the introduction of something as a relief. And yet that's exactly what's happening. So a reasonable person is left feeling unreasonable, because why would that be happening? I mean, how can you, it is inconceivable, and that's part of the problem. The problem is that we can't really conceive of a situation where everything that you believed before isn't really true, and the people that, although incompetent or dickheads as they may have been, are not necessarily part of a conspiracy, but have sort of bought into being led to believe something and gone against their own instinct. Because to do this kind of thing to somebody must take people against their own instinct about what is fair and decent and right and proper, let's say. A lot of the people in the Nazi movement must have thought, well, this isn't right, but everyone else seems to be doing it, so maybe it is. Or I dare not kind of back out now, everyone else is doing it. I'd rather be on this side than that side, because that side is, really in the shit. So at least I'm on the side of survivors. And we're left questioning our own sanity. And part of the programming and part of the brainwashing is to force reasonable people to attack or exile or turn against anybody that questions or that raises this question. And it is an uncomfortable question. It's an uncomfortable thing to ask. Is it possible that everything you believed thus far, the illusion of rights and freedoms and the illusion of everything that we had, it was so easily taken away with an imaginary threat? This is not to say people haven't died, and this is not to say there weren't some people more vulnerable than others to certain things, but on the whole, even our own government has admitted, even on the 20th of March, the World Health Organization downgraded this threat to a non-serious threat. Even our own government told us not as many people were going to die as thought were going to die. Even our own government have said, actually, no, this is, the new projection is different. And yet, even though all of that's settled down, the restrictions have not been changed. Only enough, a bit like someone pointed out the other day, like clicker training, where you're told to do this and you get a reward, and then you do that and you get sanctioned. But more and more people are saying something's not right. Am I allowed to ask questions? Is it okay to ask questions? This doesn't feel good. And I've said before, the only thing you're gonna live with later on in a few months is that if people were hurt and afraid or died during this time, and you blindly went along and accepted the threats, and as Vernon Common was saying, some of the campaign threats about staying in, stay at home and save lives. The Chinese slogan was, if you love your parents, lock them up. The Korean slogan was something like, if you meet your friends, you kill your friends, something like that. So and we've got this stay at home and save lives. So therefore, if you go out, you're killing people. It's not true. It's absolute rubbish. Wearing masks to walk through graveyards, to visit graves, wearing masks in places like this, public, there's no one here. Not being allowed to stop and to sit down, and all of these weird things that have sort of been lifted but sort of not lifted, with a level of confusion that makes people stay afraid. Uncertainty frightens people. And what it does is, if you keep people uncertain long enough, they'll grab anything for a sense of certainty. And of course, those that make the solutions make the problems in the first place, so that you'll accept their solutions. So we have a situation now where people are desperate for a solution. They're banging their pans and they're thanking the NHS, even though actually, yes, the NHS have been abused, but they were being abused before that. They were being underfunded before that. But the illusion of a proportion of them have been thrown under the bus and worked off their feet, while a vast majority have been furloughed, all to create an illusion that keeps us in a sense of fear and confusion. So what's going to happen? Well, nothing immediately. I can't really see anything immediately having a massive turnaround. But the language is now about this track and trace, and the language is about a vaccine coming. But track and trace is the big thing, because track and trace means that you will be under control, micromanaged. Although somebody in the government said, well, we don't want to micromanage people. No, we don't have to micromanage if you've done it for us. If you've taken an app, and if you've signed up to be managed from a distance, we can actually you can micromanage yourselves, but we'll control that. So I can only urge you to really stand your ground and keep asking questions, because that's all we've got left at the moment, is the ability to trust your gut instinct or trust your intuition and say, hang on, is this true? Just ask questions. What are the number of deaths? How many? How do you calculate the number of deaths when there's no test for COVID-19? How do you calculate the number of deaths accurately? There is no accurate calculation because there's no test for it. How can you propose to use a test for it to control the population's free movement, right to see their families, or be safe at home, right to have a voice, right to meet in public, right to have a job and a livelihood? How can you take away so many human rights when that is hinged upon being able to calculate and predict the severity of a threat that can't be counted? Okay? If you're believing the media, and if you're believing the government, you have to really understand that there is no test. The test that they are proposing, tests for antibodies to a multitude, to around 30 odd autoimmune, personal, your own immune systems, autoimmune responses, COVID or coronavirus responses, around 30 odd. That's 30 different types of responses that are none of them of which are the SARS-CoV-2, which is this supposed RNA strand of a very particular type of coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Okay, now that only exists in very particular places, can only be found and detected under very strict laboratory testing, and is not what most people are getting. Most people are getting severe trauma and stress from the fear that's been imposed Fear is the killer. Not in that fear makes us imagine things, but the real threat to survival that results in our bodies as a result of that threat is what triggers disease, because we're in a state of responding to a threat. Now, if that threat's not there, but we believe it is because we've been told it is, what kind of government does that? What kind of group of people let that be okay? Who are probably so frightened themselves they don't know what to say or do. I don't know what the answer is to that. All I can say is, it's up to us. And if we don't do something, this is going to slip by and you're going to be left with just being controlled in your everyday movement in ways that you can't imagine. And unless we start to stand up and say no, we're going to be stuffed.